Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the World Championship Series European Premier League for Season 2. My name's Kaelaris, alongside Apollo once again. This is day number 2, but before we get into that, we have all 32 of our representatives here for Europe. Shown in our groups here. Today, we are going to be kicking things off with Group B.
Yeah, that's it. So you can see all the 32 players that are still in Premier League today, or should I say 30 players, we did lose 2 yesterday. We'll be kicking off today with Group B. Stephano, Shuttle, MC, and sLivko. 4 players fighting for 2 slots to move into the round of 16.
Yeah, we already had Group A yesterday, an explosive day of StarCraft action. Unfortunately, Elfie and BCQT, as you mentioned before, were not able to really make the cut, taking us down to 30 players. But MVP and Tefl, they were really the focal point of yesterday. Game number 1 was pretty crazy, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, this is the game that everybody was talking about when MVP went down to 5 SCVs and made the biggest comeback, or should you say, throw from Tefl of the entire WCS Season 1 and 2, I'd say. And MVP had a great start to kick him off for Season 2.
Yeah, and that wraps up the things from day 1, but moving on to day 2 now, we have 4 absolutely stellar players here to kick things off, as we have Mr. Stephano, sLivko, Shuttle, and MC.
That's right, Game 1 and Game 2 of the day, the winners will go up against each other. The losers will play down in the bottom bracket. So we're going to have 2 players out of the 4 making their way into the round of 16, as you said, to join MVP and Tefl there.
Yeah, and as you can see, also we have, all these players being represented. Interesting to note, though, that the race statistics are purely for Heart of the Swarm. So we're looking at purely what they've done as of late in the newest release here in the expansion, just to get a good coverage as to how they're playing right now.
That's it. So there's our group. Stephano, the Frenchman, second from WCS Europe last year, going up against those 3 other players. MC, of course, the boss toss is here. Quite excited to see him play, making his transfer from Korea over to the Europe scene. We've got sLivko, an underperforming Zerg player. Really has to put out performances today if he wants to be able to stay relevant, I'd like to say, in the scene.
So we can actually take a look at our first game here, as we have Mr. sLivko going to be playing against Stephano. It's going to be France versus Russia. And sLivko, I mean, he has a lot to prove here. It's going to be a bit of a tough time for him. Yeah,
with sLivko, his biggest result in StarCraft 2 overall was the 3rd and 4th place finish that he had at IEM Singapore in November last year.
Yeah.
That was in Wings of Liberty, and he was kind of rising up, you could almost say a threat in most tournaments he played in Wings of Liberty. In 2013, where it's most important and in Heart of the Swarm, he's not the best player. He's not very good at all, actually. He's underperforming. He's not getting any results. Today is the day we have to see sLivko do something, otherwise he will just fall under the radar and stay there if he's not able to make it through another round.
And then, in contrast, we have Stephano, one of the best non-Korean players worldwide here, as he has also translated that to the point where he's earned over $230,000 worth of prize pool. What a fantastic achievement.
Stephano is the player that everybody, including myself, and I'm sure yourself as well, that we look towards in big international tournaments when Koreans are dominating. Stephano's the one that we look to be able to slow them down, to be able to beat them out. In recent times, though, he's not quite the player he used to be. I'd like to just look at some of his previous results in Wings of Liberty. 1st place here, 1st place there, 1st place there, because that's all I really need to say.
Yeah.
In Heart of the Swarm, he's not been quite the fearsome individual he was back then. He's still one of the best, one of the most intelligent and talented players there is in the non-Korean StarCraft 2 scene. But we're going to find out if he's going to be able to keep up his performances, because he doesn't have long left in StarCraft 2. Remember, his retirement is meant to be, according to Stephano himself, on the 15th of August. He needs to go out with a bang. This could be his last big showing.
Yep.
This could be it.
It could be. For all those Stephano fans out there, they need to root for him in this potential final tournament he's playing. But coming over to sLivko, he is currently 75th ranked in WCS points, whilst we have Stephano, who is 6th in WCS rank. So a big difference there. And it's also very important to note here that it's not just these placement in these games, it's not just for moving on to the round of 16. It's for accumulating more points for that grand final over at BlizzCon, and the top 16 will actually go to that position.
That's right. So whenever you see, the WCS rank and then a number next to it, what it basically means is throughout all the seasons that WCS has this year, by the end of the year, in November, when BlizzCon comes around, where the global finals will be held, there'll be a 16-player tournament. The top 16 players with the points will play up against each other for a lot of money and a lot of prestige there. Stephano is one of three
Yes.
non-Koreans, TLO, Demaga, and Stephano himself, in the top 16 at this point. If he continues to perform well here in Season 2, we may see him extend his retirement to play at the BlizzCon finals at the end of the year. But a player that, for the groups today, sLivko needs to climb up in points if he even wants to come close to getting round of 16. MC, because of his transfer from Korea, and basically the way that the system worked is that MC was in Code S, right? Everyone knows he was in Code S. He wanted to play in Europe, so he had to leave WCS Korea, then re-qualify in Challenger League, qualify through Challenger League in Season 1, and made it into Premier League for Season 2. He was down there like 50, 60 ranked with the rest of the players in that group apart from Stephano. He has to do extraordinarily well in Season 2 if he has any hope of, qualifying for that round of 16 position.
Yeah, you're right. He's wasted a lot of time. And for a lot of the players out there who actually play the game in general, support Protoss, they're looking to MC to kind of take one of those spots. He's been a long-time leader of the Protoss race, admittedly not quite at the heights of people like Rain and SOS right now, but still, he's always been there, and he's always been present. He's been in the European scene for a lot more recently, and they're looking for him to do well.
Yeah, I mean, the first game of the day, though, it is going to be Stephano going up against sLivko.
Yeah.
That's going to be our first game. Then, of course, Shuttle versus MC just a little bit after. Stephano and sLivko, they played just a week ago at DreamHack, where we saw Stephano go 2-0. These two players going head-to-head, in the first game of the day. Stephano, when we look at him, we'll look at sLivko in a minute. Stephano's Achilles heel has always been Zerg versus Zerg. For his last couple of tournaments, if I'm not mistaken, just looking at it, in Heart of the Swarm, round of 16, round of 16, round of 8, round of 16. And in most of them, if not, I think 3 of the 4, if not 4 of 4, every loss against a Zerg player. Coca at DreamHack, then Jadong at the following DreamHack, Snoot at Home Story Cup. He always loses in Zerg vs. Zerg, so he's going to have to start off his WCS run in Season 2 on a Zerg vs. Zerg, but like I did mention before, he was able to beat sLivko 2-0 last week.
Yeah,
so we'll see if he's able to continue that.
It's an interesting thing because for a long time throughout sLivko's career, he has been very good in Zerg versus Zerg. There was always that point in Wings of Liberty, at least, where he would play very defensively initially, allow his opponent to come to him, and then once he's thwarted any kind of threat, he would then push out and do the damage. Still, in Heart of the Swarm, his win ratio is pretty good in ZVZ. It's still his strongest matchup, so if Stephano's going to be toppled at any time during this group, could be against sLivko.
sLivko, despite being probably the least favorite to make his way through, depending on how things work out, he could still make it through.
Yeah.
Going on a Zerg versus Zerg to begin with, pushing him into the winner's match, depending on what goes down in the MC Shuttle game. sLivko's very dangerous against Terran players. If we saw Shuttle win, then sLivko could actually go through first place. So it's all to play for here to join MVP and Tefl in the round of 16. By the end of today, we will have 4 players already claim their position to play live from Cologne, Germany in a couple of weeks' time. I'm looking forward to that. Today, we have to, go through these players to find out who those 2 will be, though.
It's going to be a good one. If day 1 was anything to go by, day 2 should be fantastic as well. You've got people like MC in the mix as well, along with a player like Shuttle, who... Shuttle's not a player that's gained the highest of highs as a Terran, but he's still a Korean. He still does pretty well for himself on foreign soil. Had a little bit of a struggle at the start of Premier.
Yep.
Round of 32 knocked out in the previous season. So he has to watch out in this group as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting group to look at for sure. So, I mean, just before we go more, specifically into Stephano sLivko, which is our first game, for all 4 players, if you were to place them in first, second, third, and fourth place, how would you do that?
I think I'd probably go Stephano, MC, sLivko, then Shuttle. I actually think that Shuttle's going to have a really, really difficult time here. For sLivko in Wings in Heart of the Swarm, his ZVT isn't really that great. around 40% win ratio. But I actually think he could beat out Shuttle here. Shuttle's a guy that likes a lot of Hellbats, but nowadays a lot of Europeans they're slowly getting used to it, slowly.
Yeah.
However much you can consider that, and I think sLivko would be ready for that kind of thing.
I completely agree with the setup that you presented. I think Stephano will ace the group. I think he'll win against sLivko, and then I think MC will probably go through in the winners match against Shuttle, and then I think Stephano would beat MC, and then I do believe MC would come to win the losers match. sLivko third place, fall into Challenge League, and then Shuttle behind him in last place. I think, you know, exactly the same predictions. Going up in this first game though, so Stephano versus sLivko. From what I've been told, the first map is Star Station, so just bear with us for a second. The players are still vetoing the maps, which is why we're just waiting for this game to begin. But Star Station, the first map here, this is the same map that they did play their first game on, actually, at DreamHack just a week ago. And Stephano very much so outplayed his opponent. The way that Stephano likes to play this matchup, he opens up usually with a hat trick or spawn and pull first. It doesn't matter which one. It depends on his mindset. You know, whether he opens up hat trick first, then goes defensive, or defensive, then greedy. Two different variations to open with. But he always takes a gas very early. Will always, from what I've seen in his last 5 to 10 games, put pressure on with a bunch of Zerglings and Banelings to then take a drone lead. It's not an all-in, but he makes about 20 Zerglings, morph about 8 of them into Banelings, goes for an attack while droning behind it to gain a substantial lead, which he'll throw into Evolution Chamber, +1 Roach upgrade, over into Infestors, and then kind of play it from there. And actually, I don't know if you guys watched the Stephano versus sLivko map number 2 on Akelon Waste. What I saw from Stephano, again, was a spark of brilliance, which was a combination of Roach, Infestor, Vipers, Hydralisk into Broodlords eventually. Super smooth, super cost efficient. Because you've got Fungal Growth, which kills a bunch of units, of course. You've then got the Swarm Host with their Locust dealing out a lot of free damage, and then eventually Broodlord. I looked at the units lost time at the end of the game, and typical Stephano, man, he had half the units lost to sLivko in that game. And I think that's kind of similar how they'll play out once again today. sLivko's very dangerous. Lots of all-ins, lots of timings, lots of sneaky play. There was one game, I think it was the Akelon Waste game. He built 2 Spine Crawlers. Stephano saw them and backed out. He then cancelled them and had a lot of Zerglings pushing out Stephano. So there's mind games capable of sLivko to play as well. I
think it's important to note as well that there have been recent shifts in ZVZ metagame. There was obviously a lot of Mutalisk play. Spore Crawlers came in, and if anybody's played ZVZ recently, they'll know that Mutalisks don't fare too well against Spore Crawlers.
3 shots, man.
Yeah, and then it's become far more Roach-centric once again, with little shimmers of Infestors, and the Swarm Hosts have come along as well that can sometimes play for very, very strange, stagnant engagements in the middle of the map, but it's really about the movement of the Roaches and when you're timing in to move in between swarms of Locusts and things like that. So it's become quite exciting, actually, the movements that you can occur, unless it becomes super kind of gridlocked in the middle of the map, which can be a bit weird, but yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of gridlocking that happens in Zerg vs. Zerg. I'd be very surprised if we actually saw Mutalisk play. You did say it, right?
Yeah.
They're not as much used anymore. The Spore Crawlers in good positions, Hydralisk coming out with speed as well. So there's a lot of different things that bring down Mutalisk, unfortunately. So I don't think we'll see that today. We could see it on the off chance. Maybe if you have an advantage and you want to play Mutalisk, you can still play it from an advantageous position.
Yeah.
But if they're both playing at a parallel rate, where they're equal in the game, it's very, very difficult to be able to pull off a Mutalisk play, which is why we see a lot of double Evolution Chamber builds, maybe a single Evolution Chamber, which focuses a lot more on building a lot of units early on. But, you know, I think this game is going to be a 2-0 for Stephano. I think they'll play similar-ish.
Yeah.
But sLivko will be a little bit more on the overall aggression side. I think Stephano will be tickling a little bit more. Remember, Stephano is pretty much, you know, one of the most readable opponents to play against. Pretty much opens up and plays the same game every time. Look at his look at his Zerg versus Terran. Zergling, Baneling, Muta every game into Ultralisk. Sometimes Roach Hydra. Against Protoss, Swarm Host every single game. This Zerg versus Zerg, Roach play into Infestors every single game. So he is readable. That's where sLivko could find some way to beat him, by exploiting a weakness that he knows Stephano could do.
All right, then. We are getting ready to jump into game number 1. As we said before, Star Station is our map here between sLivko and Mr. Stephano. So it's going to be a good one, I think. Coming back to the Roach play and things like that, the reason, you know, it's become such a meta-game-centric thing is 3-3 upgrades and ranged upgrades especially synergizes just so well with everything that you've got in that mid-game. across the board, the Swarm hosts, the Roaches, the Hydralisks, it's such a difficult kind of composition to fully deal with, and it works out so well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these guys are going to play around in the mid game, because that's where it's all at in ZVZ.
That's right, and we'll see how that's going to shape up. So remember, this is a best of 3. Winner goes on to the winner's match. Loser drops down to the loser's match. Let's begin Season 2, Day 2.
Yeah. And spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner here as our red Zerg, he is VP sLivko. And spawning up to the top left as our blue Zerg, we have EG Stephano.
That's right, second place from Season 1, the Europe Premier League. Didn't do too well in the WCS Season 1 finals, though, Kaelaris. Didn't do that well. I mean, he went there, his first game was against TLO, he lost 1 game to 2. He then played against Alive, which is 0-2. So he won 1 game, losing 4. Not the best start in the Season 1 finals, but granted, a lot of travel involved. Zerg versus Zerg, first matchup. Alive has been performing very well for EGTL recently as well.
It's interesting that you say that about Stephano at the finals, because I think a lot of people would have expected Stephano to be the top finisher regarding foreigners at the WCS finals, but no, that was not the case. TLO steps it up with his practice regimen and is able to even take out Stephano in that first game. So Stephano, whilst he is, people would still argue that he is the still top of the pile in terms of foreigners, but wasn't able to fully prove it on that day.
I think in Wings of Liberty, people 100% Stephano. People did argue about Naniwa for a long time in Wings of Liberty, but Stephano edged out and took a big lead as the #1 non-Korean player. Though in Heart of the Swarm, that gap has narrowed quite a lot. You know, I'd say Naniwa's right back up there for the running again as best non-Korean at this point. And then you got people at Lucifron too, man. You got people challenging that place for Stephano.
Yeah, and it does throw down that main, natural even here for sLivko, whilst we have Stephano going for that pool opener. So maybe we'll see. Well, Stephano's just playing a little bit more defensively here, really, making sure that he's not going to be caught out by anything too early. There's the hatchery going down now as well. So things are going to synergize up pretty quickly here between the two players.
Yeah, we'll see how this is going to work out. I mean, there's not too much of a big difference. I really want to see Stephano take that gas, though. He hasn't taken it yet, and that's something that hasn't been shown in his recent games, which I'm rather surprised at. sLivko is the one that's taken the first gas. So he's the one that will have Zergling speed up faster. Stephano is playing a gasless style. And the thing is, he can still take it at any second, but what's most likely going to happen from this is he'll rush up to about 4 queens, have a really solid queen defense, because this ramp you can block with 2 queens, you can transfuse and save energy on them, and then around the 4-minute 50 mark to 5-minute, within that 10-second window, is when he'll add on double gases all at once to start to power up. This is technically called a little bit of a greedy style from Stephano. No Bailing Nest, no Zergling speed. These are key units and abilities to be able to defend well. Yeah,
it's always a little bit scary when you do go gasless for that while, but 1 gas is now going down for Stephano to kick things off here. Just a little bit of a deviation up, but as you were saying, with the 2 gases around 4:30, he takes one just a little bit earlier to actually compensate for that kind of thing.
So he won't take a second one too soon, and will just rely on 1 to tick over for a little bit here, and goes 3 queens, not 4, just the difference. So we are going to go over to find out what this overall is going to go down. So we are going to see it go down. And that's already a bit of a blow for sLivko.
Yeah.
Having that go down already is not so good.
Not too bad at all here for Stephano. Supply blocking sLivko this early on is very nice indeed. Meanwhile, though, sLivko does have his speed on the way, and that's one of the things that you have to account for when you do go so gasless as Stephano early on, because you have to account for the fact that your opponent is going to have speed earlier. Baneling Nest goes down as well here for sLivko. So
inside the main base, that's hidden too, right? Like from the overlords on the front door and potential Zerglings too. So I think we're going to see a lot of Zerglings made very shortly.
Yeah, he can certainly be aggressive with this. Normally, if you see more defensive Baneling Nest, then you would have to, you would normally have it at the front of the natural. Something there maybe to block a little bit of area off, put your queen between the natural as well as that Baneling Nest. But for now, that is indeed sLivko's idea, maybe a little bit more aggressive.
So Zergling speed's about to finish, but he hasn't really built any influx of Zerglings. He decided to build a layer instead. So the Baneling Nest at this point just becomes a mere defensive structure to morph defensive Banelings. Both players, though, rushing up towards layer. sLivko's taking a lot of gases at once here. We could see him play Mutalist play. There's no Roach Warring down. He's taking all 4 gases. Not 100% certain, but it looks like that at this point. Stephano with the Evolution Chamber finishing up. +1 attack should start. The Roach Warren is there. He will be playing that kind of composition. Roach play to begin with. Slowly build out, spread creep, and take a third momentarily.
Yeah, looks like he will actually... Oh, actually, that being said, sLivko... Ah, there we go. He actually transitions into those gases at the main as well. So a lot of gas income going on for him here. And those lava injectors go down once again. Roach Warren about to finish up in just a second, as we do have that +1 weapons going down as well for Stephano. So if he does go Spire, if sLivko goes Spire, he could catch Stephano quite off guard.
Yeah, he could do, but we'll see if Stephano's going to be ready for this, right? So... where's the Spire? Is it going to be a Spire?
There it is.
Okay, so there it is. So the Spire's come down now. With the Spire coming in, Stephano's going to need to identify what exactly is going on. Whether it be an Overseer, because he is at the lair himself. That's kind of the key scouting unit.
Definitely. He needs to get in there. He needs to see exactly what's going on. It can be treacherous if you're playing without the vision. That being said, though, the Mutalisks will have to probably fly through the middle of the map. If he goes around the sides, then it takes quite a while to actually get there. And with his Overlords in the positions that they are, he could spot those Mutalisks whilst they're flying over and try and get the Spore Crawlers up, but it'd be so close.
Yeah, I'm not sure Stephano's actually identified what's going on yet. You know, he hasn't built any Spore Crawlers. That's what he's going to have to do. He's only seen a couple of Zerglings. This could be anything. Remember, sLivko's a very dangerous all-in type of player. There could be Roaches running past at any point, a Nidus Swim or whatever. Oh, the block!
Tries to get in there and does. Just filters through some of those Queens. Those Zerglings do penetrate the defenses, and now trying to focus down one of the Queens. Will he be able to bring it down? So close, but the drone's actually battling off as well. That Queen just barely goes down. That's not too bad a pickup there for sLivko.
Yeah, Stephano already with another Queen in production, realizing that was going to go on. Now comes a time where Stephano's been building nothing but Roaches, right? He must be at about 30, 20 to 30. Okay, 10.
He's only at 10.
More on the way, though. There's another 10 on the way, so 20 Roaches in total. sLivko is probably going to lose his third here. He's going to try and defend it. He's got Zerglings and Mutalisks on the way. There's a Hydralisk Den coming down. Stephano, he's going to buy himself time through moving out with Roaches, because what will happen, he'll attack the third hatchery, sLivko will try to defend it, and in that time, Spore Crawlers will come down at every single base, maybe 2 per base here.
Ooh, how much does sLivko actually have to deal with this? He doesn't really have that much. He's going to have to fully rely on these Mutalisks. This is going to keep them at home. This is going to allow Stephano to make defenses back at home. And the Roaches will end up dying, but they're doing quite a lot of damage in the process here. Not got too many workers just yet, just 2 in total. The Zerglings trying to push them on back. But Stephano, I think he's bought himself a good amount of time.
He hasn't actually built any Spore Crawlers, just 10 Hydralisks are now coming in. He's killed the Queen on the third base, he's killing a couple of loose units, going to pick off another Queen on the natural here. Going to slow down his opponent's lava injects, therefore his lava and production is really halted now.
Yeah, and that means Stephano behind this. Spore Crawlers are now on the way for him. The Mutalisk needs to traverse across this entire map to make something work here, but still more workers actually die out there for sLivko in his third. Stephano doing a pretty darn good job. And where is he going to go?
Spore Crawlers are coming, man. Spore Crawlers are being put down in different locations. He didn't build them immediately because he knew, I guess, the Roaches would be there long enough where he didn't need to rush them down. And with already 10 Hydralisks out at least, he's pretty well defended here, I'd say. And, you know, sLivko at this point is making a transition over. He's got +1 attack on the way. He's got Roaches being built too, but Stephano's already got that.
Exactly. Stephano just
Baneling
completely...
speed.
Ooh, I like that.
So he's going to play Roach Baneling here, and the Banelings are trying to detonate onto the Hydralisk so he can use his Mutalisks a little bit more efficient.
Very important here. But now with the muscular augments out for Hydralisks, especially if he engages on creep, it's a lot easier to kind of separate Hydralisks up against some kind of Baneling play, especially getting them into more defensive positions in comparison to where your Roaches are. So it's harder for the Banelings to actually detonate. sLivko for now does pull back. He can't really get anything done with these Mutalisks at all.
Yeah, nothing too bad, but he is up to 20 Roaches now-ish.
Yeah.
And compared to only Stephano's 8 and 11 Hydras, Stephano does have a bit of an upgrade lead now. And we'll see how this is going to shape out. Let's have a quick look at the production tab, as we do see no addition of the Infestation Pit yet by either player.
Yeah, they're just
I think that will come down soon. I think it will come down soon, very soon for Stephano.
Well, there's the muscular augments on the way. He knows he needs that against his opponent's play right now. Although that being said, he doesn't know that his opponent's fully committing to some kind of extra Baneling tech, which is something that he may need to know. Although he could, of course, just fully respond to it once he sees it, and with the reactionary player that Stephano is.
Stephano's 50 supply behind. You know, he's supply blocked a few times in this game. There's the Infestation Pit as expected to try to get over to Infestors, but the problem is 12 Banelings are being morphed, 13. There's going to be a big attack here by sLivko, and Stephano, who has been in the dark a lot, who's trying to tech up further than he already is, doesn't know it's coming. he may not survive the night.
It's difficult, that really is. I mean, the Mutalisks, I said that they didn't do too much prior in terms of actual damage, but what they did do was give him a lot of map control for him to hide a lot of what he was doing behind this. So sLivko now morphing in a few more Banelings as well. He's got 13 out right now. He's morphing in a few more, 6 in total. There's actually not that many Roaches out for Stephano to try and soak up Banelings.
Yeah, but he is climbing up in supply. He's up to 178 now compared to 198. This base is a no-go. 27 Hydras, though. That is quite a lot of Hydralisks, but there's so many Roaches here.
Yeah, he's going to have to be very, very careful about how he controls this. The Hydralisks actually split up behind this, knowing that those Banelings are a big, big threat. They march on forwards, as well as those Roaches doing quite a bit of damage. The majority of the Mutalisks have actually just died off and gone, but sLivko is doing a great job here of powering on forwards against Stephano on multiple fronts, in fact, staying at his third with some of those units. All the drones come off the line at the natural here for Stephano. He knows he's in trouble, as sLivko is taking a great lead.
Oh, bit of lag there, just as Stephano is dead. Like, sLivko's 172 supply up over 126 with a lot more units on the way here.
Yeah.
Stephano didn't slow down that third base too well early enough. sLivko was able to, you know, mine from 3 bases the same rate as sLivko.
If you briefly look at this screen now, people would say the one saving grace of Stephano would be the reinforcements and how quickly they get into the battle. But because they're split up over multiple locations, they never enter the battle at the same time. It's very hard to get them from this third, for example, and the main and the natural all at the same time to engage. So they all get picked off.
Yeah.
And dealing with an army like that of sLivko's on your doorstep with just reinforcements, so difficult.
And Stephano's reinforcements pop out, but there's already 40 Roaches ready to greet them.
Yeah, he takes out tons of those Roaches. The drones have to evacuate, but they have to be pulled into the fray once again here in this fight. sLivko pulls back, playing a little bit cautiously, but he knows he's done a lot of damage. So,
yeah, I mean, no, Stephano's in a terrible, terrible position at this point. He's trying to get Pathogen Glands down, to use Infestors to crawl back. That's how Stephano has won many a game, actually, by playing at a major deficit and being able to control better, get better fights. But at this point, I don't think it's going to work this time around here for Stephano, who would ultimately go down 0-1, having to face another game against sLivko, could die. I mean, he needs to... He can't do this game, but he needs to win the next couple in a row.
What an amazing upset this would be if sLivko was able to take the entire series to kick things off here on day number 2.
Yeah.
That would... No, very few people would have pegged that result, but in game number 1, sLivko is doing it. And again, for the longest time, ZVZ was his strength. ZVZ was his home ground. He knows how to play this matchup, and he's seemingly transitioning onto Heart of the Swarm pretty nicely here.
Zerg versus Zerg seems to be against Stephano's weakness as sLivko comes moving in one final time here. He's maxed out, 200 supply, Stephano at 150, cancelling the third base as an attempt. That will never happen. And it doesn't look like sLivko wants to fight into that small, narrow choke point. Of course, there's fungals, there's everything ready to go, so he's going to spread his units nice and thick and thin. Should I say thin at that point? Nice spread thin. And just kind of waiting for Stephano to move out.
Yeah, trying to take out that Roach Warren as well. He could even bring that down right now, regardless of actually what happens with his opponent's army. And there it goes. And meanwhile, actually, whoa, a few of those Banelings do catch to connect. They were caught behind all of those Roaches there, but they filter on through, getting some good damage done. Not too bad fungals here by Stephano, but in the end, I don't think it's going to matter. The Infestors go down. The entirety of Stephano's army is plundered. And sLivko looking good in game number 1.
That's right, he's going to be able to take down Stephano in map number 1. Remember, it's a best of 3. And we'll see how this moves on as Stephano says congratulations. And VP BenQ, sLivko, takes map number 1 against last year's second place finisher, last season's, should I say, finalist.
Was not expecting it, but in the back of my mind, knowing that sLivko is good in this matchup, but then you have to account for the fact that Stephano beat him last week.
Yeah, just
DreamHack.
2-0 at DreamHack in group stage 3 last week. But this week, it's sLivko's week.
sLivko's week. Will he continue the form? Game number 2 on the way in just a little bit here. Stephano needs to step it up.
If Stephano was to go out in the round of 32 here today, which we could witness, MC is in this group. MC loves to play against Stephano.
Yep.
They've had a lot of games, a lot of rivalry, a lot of history together. That could be a game. Depending on what MC does, Stephano could dodge a bullet and not even have to play against MC as well. That's another possibility here.
Yeah, maps alone between Stephano and MC, it's 17 map wins to MC, 16 map wins to Stephano. So how close is it between those two?
Yeah.
So ridiculously close. As game number 2 is going to be on the way in just a little bit here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what Stephano ultimately has to do. Do you know the next map at all? Is it written down somewhere?
The next map will be first Star Station and then second, not listed.
Is it there? No, it's the Derelict, right?
Oh, is it? Yeah, Derelict.
Okay, so that's going to be the next map here. This, I believe, can be played out very similar
Yes.
to what we just saw in Star Station. It's not too much of a different map between these two players, in all honesty. So we'll see if Stephano can make the comeback here. He's going to need to pull something together. If not, he's going to have to win 2 games in a row from the lower bracket. And remember, there are a couple of other dangerous players in his group, MC and Shuttle, 2 Koreans, waiting to get their chance to move into the round of 16. That's why MC's even here, man. It's his whole purpose to win this entire thing.
Yeah, it really is. And he has to. Not necessarily has to win the entire thing, but he has to finish highly. If he doesn't, then there is a situation where MC, in 1 season alone, there's the potential that he can't gain enough points, basically.
But over 2 seasons,
there is a shot.
There is a chance there for MC. So we are going to be jumping into map number 2 here in a second. So thank you for joining here today. Make sure to use Twitter to hashtag WCS for your thoughts on games, whether you hope to see Stephano make it through to the round of 16 to play live here in Cologne, Germany once again, to join MVP and Tef, or if you're a fan of sLivko, Shuttle, MC, the boss toss himself, do let us know on Twitter. And we'll be reading some of your tweets out later on.
WCS, best tournament. It's fantastic to cast, fantastic to watch every single day, every single game. We already had day 1, which was just crazy off the wall. And if sLivko's able to win this first series, he's already going to be kind of crazy off the wall on day 2.
To see Tefo go through, not many people expected that name to be in the round of 16. Not many people are expecting sLivko either. We'll see if he can do it here going into map number 2 against Stephano. All he's got to do is win 1 more map, and he'll be in the winner's match, fighting in a best of 3 to move on to the round of 16 to surpass his last season in Season 1. He played in the opening day. He didn't make it past the opening day either. And he could do much better here.
Yeah, certainly could do. So let's jump into game number 2 as we load up onto Derelict Watcher. And we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner here as our blue Zerg. He goes by the name of E.G. Stephano. And spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner here as our red Zerg. He is VP BenQ sLivko.
As you can see, this map does play out a little bit similar. It's kind of a similar map structure, playing cross-position here. Naturally easy to take. The third base a little bit more difficult. But the biggest thing in Zerg versus Zerg, and I really have to stress this, you have to know what your opponent's doing. And I think that wasn't the case in the previous round. Stephano had no idea because of the Mutalisk. It was a nice little tactic to use to clear overlords. Prevent Stephano to know whether he should be building up an army or looking to move on to the next level of tech, which would have been his infestors there. He got stung by an attack, which sLivko planned out beautifully. This map, they have to be eyes on. Overseeing needs to come out from Stephano. It's a very simple, cheap unit to make from an overlord, to simply morph it over, to get in there, find out the drone count. You can look in the mineral lines to find out the unit count as well.
It feels as if with the Spore Crawler change that Mutalisks have gone back to their last used purpose in Wings of Liberty, where they were there for mostly map control, to kick things off, then to transition on a little bit. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, before I'd say that they were used a lot more heavily for everything. Sometimes transitions, but in this matchup, they shouldn't even be used at all. But I think sLivko Stephano didn't hit him hard enough before he got the Mutalisk out, which is one big weaknesses of that. But if you are going to use them, you can't rely on them like you used to be able to. You have to move out. You have to. Spore Crawlers, Hydralisks, Infestors will rip you apart.
They really will. It's a lot of good anti-air in the Zerg arsenal now. As for now, sLivko here has his 1 gas going again, but Stephano now just adding on his 1 gas as well. So playing a little bit at gasless to kick things off, but he's getting his first gas a little bit quicker here
Yep.
in game number 2.
So this is what I thought we would have seen for Stephano in the first game. So he's going back to what he knows best. So what we're going to be seeing him do is mine from this gas with all 3 drones that you need to saturate it, get Zergling speed, and what I'm thinking he'll do is stay in the gas, get the Baneling nest down straight away on the natural, and just go with 20 to 30 Zerglings for an attempt to slow down his opponent. Take control of the game. That's where Stephano plays his best, is when he's controlling what's happening, not reacting to a certain extent.
Interestingly enough, we actually have 2 left in the gas there for sLivko. Not taking the 3 normal off, or just leaving 1 on at least. So a little bit more of a gas income than you would normally see here from sLivko to kick things off whilst he secures his natural as well. I'm wondering if he's going to place his Baneling nest down in his main again, and if he wants to get aggressive with that. I've seen sLivko once or twice go for it. Not really a common tactic from sLivko, but looks like he may be doing something.
Yeah, he's putting it inside the main base here. But with only having 2, he's not kind of climbing up with his gas count, so he's not going to rely on a lot of Banelings here, which simply puts him in a defensive stance. May even see a Spine Crawler come down on his natural. He's not looking to do anything too crazy at this point, simply because he can't make too many Banelings here. Stephano has all 3 in gas. He has a little bit higher drone count, as we do see Lings in production actually from sLivko. But Stephano does have a Baneling nest coming down of his own and should start his Ling production. But because of the earlier speed and the way that, look at this sLivko, very surprising here, only in 2 in gas, not 3.
And it looks like he's going to get aggressive.
Zerglings, yes.
Yeah.
But Stephano's doing a very similar thing, just a little bit later on, with a higher drone count.
Yeah.
This is good for Stephano, really good.
Oh, yeah,
He has the same aggressive tools, but with a higher drone count, higher economy, higher supply.
This is very unlike sLivko's ZVZ play. I think it's important to emphasize that, because normally he is not as aggressive as he is going to be right now. He's morphing in a few Banelings here to get things going at the very front of his opponent's base. The Zerglings are streaming across as well, but Stephano has already found these Banelings at the front, so he's going to try and start nibbling down on them. And while Stephano's morphing in some of his own Banelings as well. And that wasn't the best of Baneling connections just then.
Wasn't the best of Banelings, but there's a lot of Zerglings that make their way inside the main base here. Stephano's 4 Banelings only just about being morphed.
Yeah, trying to stream in once again here. That's still a lot of Zerglings still alive here for sLivko. If one of those Baneling detonations goes off well for Stephano, he could find himself in a good spot. He catches a lot of Zerglings with that one. And at the moment here, still doing quite a good job, but everything in the end dies off. And we're back to square 1.
Yeah, back to square 1, back to equal supply at this point. But I'd definitely say the lead is in favor of sLivko, who has the layer down. All his gases are pretty much taken now as well. And at this point, he can morph defensive Banelings and just play a normal game with the Roach Warren coming down. Stephano built a lot of Zerglings there. He's not going to be able to break a defense with a, a Queen there, Spine Crawler, Zerglings and Banelings of his own.
Yeah. Going to be difficult for him. We'll see how that's going to work on out. For now, plenty of Overlords just spotting everything that's going on for their opponents in the middle of the map. So sLivko does know that these Zerglings are pooling outside. The Spinecrawler, Queen, and Baneling setup he has there should be able to hold this. Yeah. As he does actually bring a few Banelings along for his own, but still should be okay for sLivko.
Both players going up to the same place here. Lair, Roach Warren, a single Evolution Chamber. Should see identical setup of tech. This is the +1 attack and naturally Roach speed and Roaches being made. But the drone count, I mean, if you look at the drone count real fast, it's 43 for sLivko, 38 for Stephano here. He's a little bit behind at this point in terms of supply, just a little bit, but still relatively equal of a game.
Yep, not too bad here. sLivko reveals his Banelings his Roaches pretty quickly there. So now Stephano should have a bit of more of an indication as to what his opponent's up to. A lot more information than he had going into the middle stages of game number 1 at least. So now he separates up some Zerglings, trying to spot a third. He sees the lack of third, so knows that his third is quite nicely timed here.
Yeah, it means that he doesn't need a drone at all, just needs to keep building units at this point. Doesn't need a drone to his third, should I say. Needs to complete his saturation on 2 bases, but doesn't need to overdrone at all. And at this point, the Overseer did manage to get a bit of scouting down on the natural too. Still very, very equal. Both players building a lot of Roaches. Stephano knows that he has to keep building Roaches because his opponent isn't going to drone to a base that isn't ready to be droned towards.
Yeah.
So he knows that he has to keep up with his own Roach production. Very similar, 11 to 8 at this point. Equal drones, just about 43 to 49. A little bit of a difference, but not too much.
And Stephano's going to bring out his best in this game. Anything else is just not going to cut it.
Yeah.
He has to win this game. If he doesn't, he goes down to the potential of actually being completely knocked out of this group. So Stephano here is going to play the best EVZ he possibly can do with Glue Reconstitution finish showing up in just a second for these Roaches, and plenty of creep spread at the front between these two bases means that it's a great defensive posture for him to take there.
Stephano moving in with an Overseer, looking at the Roach count, trying to figure out if they're still being made, which they are at this point, and he's got a lot on his way. But as soon as Stephano moves in with that Overseer to see drones on the third base, he'll start to drone up himself. So I'd say they're still relatively equal. Stephano's got a great defense here. He's not going to be broken. He's got a lot of Roaches of his own. Got great spread too.
Yeah, and he will actually power in from both sides, or at least 3 sides there, and push those back. So sLivko knows he cannot contend with that. Even if he had higher numbers, the Arch was still really good here. Zerglings actually penetrate the third base, and Baneling does kill off quite a lot of them, but there's still a few there. Do get 1 or 2 drones for their price.
sLivko may have made too many drones here. He just morphed 10 drones at once while Stephano was still building Roaches. Stephano realized that he weakened a lot of them and even picked off a couple. He has a 20 supply advantage. This could be where Stephano picks up map number 2 and ties the series up.
Yeah, certainly could do. Roaches powering on forwards here once again, and this is looking really, really bad here for sLivko. He just doesn't have the unit numbers he needs. 32 Roaches out on the field for Stephano in comparison to 5. There you go. GG for game number 2. Stephano ties up the series.
Yeah, I mean, that's Zerg versus Zerg in a nutshell, guys. You drone a little bit too much while your opponent's building Roaches. Yeah, the Roach guy is probably going to win. As we saw there, it's very, very close. You have to be so careful when you decide to or not to drone.
Yeah.
It didn't help that sLivko moved out with a small amount of Roaches and droned behind and even took damage on his army, which just enables Stephano to be like, hold on a minute, that wasn't many Roaches and I damaged a lot of them. Please, come on, man.
Yeah, time to go. Small things in these mirror matchups can mean a whole lot. So if you're not managing your lava effectively and not building the units at the right time, it's not going to work out too well for you.
Very simple Zerg versus Zerg there. Once it gets to that third base, you, like I said, very, very simple. Just drone or Roaches. So the third map that we are going to be experiencing is going to be on Belshir Vestige.
Cool.
And on Belshir Vestige, I feel that on Belshir Vestige, it can be a lot of 2-base plays. Lots of Zergling, Baneling plays and whatnot.
Yeah.
I wonder who would do that, though, if anyone. I think it would be Stephano, actually, over sLivko. The way that sLivko's been playing this out, not too aggressive or whatnot.
The way that went in game number 2, it just didn't work out in sLivko's favor at all. So it's a very, very similar build that I would think you would see from sLivko on this map if you were to do it, but I don't think he will.
So who's going to win game number 3? Who's going to go into the winner's match?
I think game number 1...
At the start, we both said Stephano, but sLivko's not playing too bad here.
I think game number 1 might have been a kick in the right direction for Stephano. And a little bit of a wake-up call. sLivko, Stephano beat him 2-0 at DreamHack, and that's great for Stephano. That's a little bit of a confidence boost going into a series against an opponent you've just beaten. But you can't underestimate sLivko regardless. And I think there may have been an air of that in game number 1.
I'd be surprised if Stephano didn't get into the winner match, and I'd be even more surprised if he didn't get to the round of 16. That's what everyone's tuning in here to watch, to see Stephano move on, to see their 2 favorite players, MVP Stephano, potentially MC as well, move into the round of 16. sLivko can be that guy. He can be that pain that, destroys your hopes. And I'm sorry, but that's sLivko, man. He does that. Actually, funny story about sLivko at the DreamHack Twitch party. I went there just in a little bit of a break, and there's a ping pong table there. There's people playing ping pong. And sLivko was playing ping pong with another Russian guy. And whoever lost the points, so when you lose, miss the ball, hit the ball over, whatever, you had to do 5 pull-ups.
Right.
Because in the Twitch lounge, it's like an elevated area, and there was like rails all around the ceiling you could jump up and hold on to and do pull-ups. And he did so many pull-ups because he wasn't very good at ping pong, but
he's good at pull-ups.
He's very good at pull-ups. He's actually a massive guy.
He's a bear.
He's got a massive chest. He's got wide shoulders, and he was doing the pull-ups, man.
One of the scariest things I ever saw was at Intel Extreme Masters Singapore, where I think he lost a game to Grubby, and players get emotional. Players are invested in the game. So he lost a game to Grubby, and he slammed his fist onto the desk, and we were backstage, and we could hear the slam with our headphones on from the other side.
That's funny. At Trading Stories, I think I think this may or not be true, but I think there's a time that he got angry at Naniwa.
Yeah. Oh. Don't want to be Naniwa.
I think he may have slammed his fist there as well, and Naniwa got a little bit scared.
I'm not surprised, man.
That's a behind-the-scenes story from DreamHack.
All right, so into game number 3 now, as we have spawning up to the top left-hand corner as our blue Zerg. He is EG Stephano. And spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner here as our red Zerg, we have VP BenQ sLivko.
The last match here between these two players, of course, a best of 3 to decide who moves on to the winners match of this group. Is it Stephano? Is it sLivko? I think a lot of people, including myself, would very much like to see a Stephano versus MC game in this winners match here. But sLivko's got a lot of proof here. There's a lot of Zerg players now that they automatically come ahead of sLivko.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you got Stephano, you got Snoot, you got Vortex, you've even got up-and-coming players like Teffel recently. You know, Salt the Wound's getting more exposure than sLivko in recent times.
Yeah.
So sLivko really needs to kind of show us who he is. He needs to show his skill and his play in Heart of the Swarm, because we just have not seen that yet.
Yeah, if there's any time to prove yourself as a European Zerg, it's right now. You have to do it. You have to. There's so many coming up, and WCS Premier gives you that opportunity to show your mettle. And that's what you have to do. But coming back to your point, it would be interesting to see Stephano versus MC. But that's the weird thing about this tournament format, because either you have the anticipation of definitely seeing them next game, or you might not see them at all in this series. The two players can potentially avoid each other completely in this tournament structure.
And I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Makes for interesting times.
All right, so Spawn and Paul versus Hatch first and vice versa here between the two players. Looks like we did see sLivko go for the Hatch first. Gas down immediately here for Stephano. So as I thought may happen, we see a very similar setup to what we saw just previous. Though sLivko, okay, has taken the gas too. So we are going to have a bit of the knife fight in the early stages, Zergling and Bailing in combination together, looking to do damage. But I think Stephano's going to, well, Stephano is going to be the one out the gates first. He has the gas faster, he'll have Zerglings faster, he'll have his Bailing nest faster as well.
As the aggressor here in ZVZ, if you're going Ling, Baneling, it's one of the hardest engagements to control in StarCraft. It can be so cutthroat, and you have to be very, very careful. Whereas the defender, if you've got Queens in position, if you've got maybe even a Spinecrawler in position, using those tools to, say, focus down 1 or 2 Banelings makes it a lot easier from the defender's side. So, but it can certainly be sketchy depending on how many units your opponent's made.
Yeah, it really can. In all honesty, I mean, the aggressive, whenever I watch games and I see the aggressive play go for it, they always seem to do well. But when I play, I prefer the defensive side.
Yeah.
I actually like having the Queens down and targeting the Banelings and maybe a Spinecrawler or whatnot. But we'll see here. Stephano should, not quite yet, but in the next probably 15 seconds as he gets a couple more drones, and his Zergling speed moves on a little bit faster here, and the Bailing nest coming down, he will want to build his Zerglings. The question is, does sLivko have the setup right to defend it? If not, then he could play this game from behind.
It certainly could do. There's more drones just pumping out for both players here, getting things going as quickly as they possibly can do. 25 drones apiece right now. Bailing nest goes down for sLivko as well, both at the natural. So just keep utilizing those. In many ways, it limits your opponent's, the room your opponent has to dart around in your natural. You can position Queens really nicely between these buildings to make sure they don't get too surrounded. Can be a little bit hazardous sometimes.
And there we see the 14 Zerglings. I think he'll go to roughly 30. Here's Stephano. Oh, actually, he built a Spinecrawler and then a drone. So what he's going to do, because if you think about player images, in the last week's game in DreamHack, Stephano was quite aggressive in the way that I displayed here. So what we're seeing from him is showing that potential aggression, making sLivko build a lot of defensive. Maybe a Spinecrawler will come down. Maybe he's Queens on the ramp and a lot of defensive units built himself. But in reality, Stephano's built half the amount of units, half the drones are coming off on the natural. He's completely faked them out here.
It's completely sold. And even if that hadn't been sold and the drones hadn't transferred off the Queens, they didn't get a lava injector. The natural, it's small things, but important things here. As Stephano is doing quite a bit of damage, denying the gas is where he can. Oh, a great Bailing connection there from sLivko.
But sLivko did take a big hit in his economy,
Yes.
and he was slowed down in his tech as well. We see the layer much later for sLivko. That was a nice sell there by Stephano, but he's got to make sure that he doesn't die to the counterattack lings that were built. These were the defensive lings. If he has a couple of Bailings to defend at home himself, while keeping up in upgrades, which is +1 attack is faster, his Roach 1, his layers faster, he's in good shape, but he mustn't take damage here.
Yeah, it's really, really important. That meanwhile, down to the south, sLivko trying to pick over an Overlord. I don't think he's going to get that in the end due to the ramp and the architecture where the Overlord is actually fleeing to. But sLivko, meanwhile, positioning a drone for his third base. And that's actually not going to be spotted too quickly here for Stephano. But with the Queen pushing away the Overlord, he's going to check that anyway with Zerglings to see what's going on there.
Yeah, we can see the Zerglings making their way down. They may even pick off the drone here if he doesn't put that hatch down. Oh, it looks like it did run away, so...
He pulled it away because he saw the Zerglings coming down with the Overlord.
Smart play there by sLivko. But at this point, Stephano still with an upgrade lead. He has his third base down of his own and Roach speed 2. Not quite ahead in supply yet, but still, in long-term investment, he is in the lead. You can see that +1 attack only just now being started by sLivko.
What are the odds of Stephano here saying, with the +1 Wheelgleary Constitution he wants to go? I think they don't line up too well here for him to really go for that kind of thing.
No, it's way too early. He doesn't have enough units, and that +1 attack's about to finish. Ideally, he want to be moving out now, so the +1 attack hits as he's there.
Yeah.
But he only has a handful of Roaches and a bunch of Zerglings, so that's not going to be the case. What we'll end up seeing is an Overseer move in. He'll scout. The drones, are drones being made or units? He saw drones pop, right?
Yeah.
He just saw him. So what does Stephano do now? I think when these Overlords pop, he's not supply blocked. Drones. Is it? I can't see. Or is it more Roaches?
Well, there's more Roaches on the way, but they were started before that, I think.
With 8, 9? Okay, so he's adding on more.
Yeah,
so with adding on more, what this plan was, he could have droned. He had the option to drone. But now he's saying, you're droning. I saw it. You're droning. I have an upgrade advantage. I'm in the lead in this game, and I know it. I'm going to put pressure on you and then drone myself. sLivko will have to defend against this.
Yeah, even if he just denies the third here, that's a fantastic pickup for him. The Banelings are morphing in. sLivko knows this is on the way down to that third location. Stephano might deviate up slightly to see exactly what's going on. He's sending in a few lings in here to get good spotting on what's actually going on. The Banelings actually crash in, but don't really get the best connections there for sLivko. Don't get that much damage done in the end. And Stephano's Roaches are going to be able to clean up a lot of those other Roaches. Look how many units are piling in.
Yeah, there's a lot of drones. Look at all the drones that are just making their way over. This is not what sLivko wants. Stephano started this series down 0-1 and is on the verge of pushing this back to take the 2-1 victory. His Roaches with their +1 attack come cruising in. A defensive spine crawler, not an aggressive one, of course. The defensive one comes down, but it's too late.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, even the +1 weapons for sLivko is not done just yet either. So Stephano hits the perfect timing here, making sure to really punish his opponent once he spots weakness. 102 supply, 78 right now, and just killing off Roach after Roach. 15 Roaches out on the map in comparison to the 8. I think eventually sLivko will clean this up, but he's taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of damage here. A lot of damage. Behind this, Stephano has quite a few drones himself. Is taking a bit of damage to a counterattack, which we only just now kind of see flashing on the screen here. So Stephano took damage himself. Didn't lose too many drones, though, actually, as we saw there. But still, has been pulled back. Still in the lead at this point, taking a 20 supply lead. Still quite a few units out.
Trying to push on forwards once again here, but sLivko has just resorted to making a lot of Roaches. So you're not going to break that anytime just yet, but Stephano should have an economical lead in just a little bit, if not just minor, as he didn't get a cancellation or a kill on the third base or anything like that. So Stephano's in the lead, but it's not by gigantic amounts.
No, not too bad. I mean, that's a pretty decent hold there by sLivko. I didn't think he'd be able to make that hold.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad. As 50 drones. Remember, Stephano didn't drone at that opportunity, while his opponent did, so he really needed to do crucial damage to his opponent. But +2 attack is now coming in. sLivko does not have that. Stephano's now going to have a +2. Once again, just a single plus attack upgrade advantage over his opponent. Making the movement down here. 10 more Roaches on the way. He's going to go again here. First wave hurt his opponent. Will the second wave win it?
And it's quite big. So again, +2 weapons means that you have 4 extra damage as opposed to +1, which is +2 extra damage. It adds 2 each time. It's not like other weapons where it adds a +1, but there you go. Great concave here by Stephano once again, getting right on top of sLivko and making that +2 work for him nicely. And there you go. GG, well played. Stephano advances on to that upper bracket final.
He does, after trailing originally 0-1 to come back to win 2 games to 1. Not bad there by Stephano. Unfortunately for sLivko, does move down to the losers match, and we'll have to face up against the loser of MC and Shuttle our next game.
Tough stuff there for Mr. sLivko after taking that first game. But that's how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mr. Stephano, he's not too bad a player.
Yeah, he's a pretty good one to say that. He's a second place finisher from last season. Will he make it to the round of 16? Because we are going to find that out today.
Yes, we are. So when we are back after the short break, guys, we shall have our next game on the way. It's going to be MC versus Shuttle.